and he would like to share with you the story that brought him into the service. So we're so glad that you're here, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
No problem.
Okay.
Hi guys. Like she said, my name is Ryan Reddig. I graduated from here in 2005. After that, I tried college for a couple of years. It didn't really work out. So in 2009, I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I left for boot camp in the beginning of 2010. Let's see, that was 3 months. From there, I went to a month of what we call MCT, which is Marine Corps Combat Training. That happened out in Camp Pendleton, California. It's in Southern California. And then from there, you go to what's called your MOS school, your Military Occupational Specialty, so your job, basically. I was an artillery scout, so my main job is to call in artillery mortars, any type of indirect and direct fire that's needed. So I went to artillery scout school in Oklahoma. I was there for 3 months, and then I went to Southern California again for Naval Gunfire School to learn to call in stuff from naval guns. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen extremely unrealistic movie of Battleship or anything like that, where they fire stuff. A lot of that stuff gets called in. So from there, I went to my unit. So I was stationed down in California as well. I served with a pretty small specialized type unit. It was only about 200 guys, mostly made up of radio operators and artillery scouts like myself. And we operated in 4-man teams. And we got basically what we did is we got attached to infantry units from our allies. So like the Brits, the British. When I went to Afghanistan, I worked with the infantry unit from the Georgian Army, so the country of Georgia, which is right by Russia. So I was with my unit for about 8 months, and then I deployed to Afghanistan. I was down in Helmand Province, and I was there for 6-7 months. So that was an interesting experience. It was very hot. I was there. I got there actually about 15 days after we killed Osama bin Laden. So it was very hectic. Was down there and came back and immediately started training up for a second deployment. And once, due to the drawdown, that deployment didn't go through, luckily enough. But I finished out my time in the Marine Corps. I helped advise and train what we call the advisor teams. So they're ground teams that are compiled up of different people with different jobs in the military. And we train them with infantry tactics and different stuff like that, because even if their job is, like, let's say they work with trucks, they're going to be on an advisor team, so they're now basically, they're going to act as an infantry team. So they're going to be on the ground and doing missions outside the wire, as we like to call it. So they're going to be going on patrol and doing stuff like that. So I spent 10 or 11 months training those guys, getting ready to go on their deployments. When I was in the Marine Corps, I had 2 kids. My wife was pregnant with our daughter when I was in Afghanistan. She actually gave birth to our daughter when I was in Afghanistan. I got home when she was 5 days old. And there were 5 or 6 other guys in my unit who had kids while we were deployed. So they weren't there to see the birth of their kids, which was unfortunate, but it was a reality. So I was lucky enough to not have to go back a second time. Although a lot of the guys that I served with, They had been on 3, 4, 5, 6 combat tours between Iraq and Afghanistan. So they had seen a lot. But yeah, I got out last October. I moved back home. I currently live in Libertyville, and I'm finishing up my degree right now. So, is there anything else that you guys wanted me to touch upon, or?
Anybody got any questions for Mr. Reddick?
What's your degree? What are you planning on doing?
I'm getting a degree in justice studies, so I'm trying to go into law enforcement. So right now I'm testing with different police departments around the area.
Could you tell me a little bit about your typical day and sleeping and eating and communication back to home and keeping tabs on what was happening when you were about to have a baby?
Yeah. Well, I was in it was the Sangin district. It's in Helmand province. It's excuse me. It was a very historically bad place. So I didn't get to talk a lot. My team did have a satellite phone. It didn't work too well. That was the only way I was really allowed to or able to talk. But as far as a typical day, I mean, we would get up 5 or 6 in the morning. If we had a morning patrol, we would get ready. We would get briefed, and then we would kind of step off. Last anywhere between 2 and 5 or 6 hours, depending on what we were doing, what our mission was, or if there was certain information that we were trying to acquire. But it really all depended on what our mission for that patrol was. A lot of what we did is we tried to collect intelligence from the locals that lived around there. But we would get back. If there was a second patrol or something like that, and for some reason we weren't on it, part of our job as scouts is if we didn't go on a patrol, since we were attached to a Georgian infantry unit, we would be up in one of our OPs, which is an observation post, on our little patrol base. The bases were probably about the size of a couple of football fields, and they were surrounded by about 6 or 7 foot berms of sand and whatnot. So we had about 4 or 5 observation posts, and depending on where they were patrolling, we would be up there. And our job is to look and see if we look out for them. So we watch their backs. So we look for any suspicious activity in the area. If anybody's using a cell phone, if any cars are driving by, if so, what are they doing, that type of stuff. After that, the nights were pretty low key unless we were getting shot at or something or getting attacked. But that didn't happen too often at night. At night we were lucky enough because I don't know how we got it, but we were in the middle of nowhere in the desert, and we had this 40-inch flat screen TV. I don't know how we got it, but so we were able to hook up. One of the guys on my team was able to hook up his computer, so we ended up watching a lot of movies. But yeah, that was kind of the typical day. Trying to think if there was anything else. I mean, that was pretty typical.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What was the atmosphere amongst your unit when the whole Osama bin Laden thing went down?
Well, we were on pre-deployment leave. I remember I was in a movie theater with my friend. I was at Showplace 8. And so when we got back, when we found out, we all started, one of my sergeants, I remember calling me, and he was just telling me to prepare because it was probably going to be really bad. Because it was the summer months, and they like to fight in the summer months because it's warm outside, because it gets, believe it or not, it gets really cold in Afghanistan during the winter. So, especially up in the mountains. So he just told me to kind of prepare for the worst. So everybody was I mean, a little on the edge, but it didn't affect us too much because we had been training for almost 9 months for it. So
Did you know it was gonna happen?
no, I didn't. No, I didn't know that was going to happen. That was kind of a. I don't think anybody did really besides the people in Washington and the SEALs that took that worked the mission. But yeah, we were all we weren't worried, but definitely we had to keep it in our we had to keep it in our minds that it was probably going to be worse than we thought. And it started off to be because the first day we got to Afghanistan, you fly into this big base. It's called Camp Leatherneck, and it's technically called a FOB or Forward Operating Base. It's basically a big base like you'd see here in the United States, just overseas. All the major FOBs in Afghanistan were hit with mortars that day, and one actually landed like 150 yards away from where we were staying. So, and they all got hit at the same time basically. So it was kind of like a simultaneous attack. So that was pretty interesting. A nice welcome, but yeah, that was kind of the typical day. If that answered your question.
Carlos has a question.
Did you feel proud when you go to the Marine Corps? Like, did you have any pride in yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did. I mean, it was, the boot camp was pretty tough. I mean, you're not treated very nice at boot camp. And it's 3 months long, so, and there's no like free time or there's no talking to your families. It's just 3 months of getting beat down pretty much. So once you reach that goal, yeah, I think every one of us was pretty proud, at least the guys I graduated with.
Like, being like treated like how? Like, what specifically do you mean, like, treated like poorly or something like that?
Well, with keeping it clean, it was. I guess you're kind of put down in certain ways. A lot is expected of you. So if you do screw up or do certain things, you'll pay for it. Usually by doing a lot of push-ups or something like that. I just say a lot of it is expected out of you, and the drill instructor's job is to transform you into a civilian, into a Marine, and that's a tough job because you have a lot to go through within 3 months. I mean, 3 months is a long time, but you have to change a lot, basically every aspect of the way you live. So, I mean, if you don't make your bed right, you'll pay. You're probably gonna pay.
All right.
Anyone else have a question?
You said when you went into like the Marines, like you chose to like be active guy.
Artillery scout?
Yeah, artillery scout. You said like you chose to be that. So could you like enroll in like other like job courses like in the Marines?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the most popular one is infantry. I mean, that's really no surprise, but that was my first choice, but I would have had to wait an extra year for boot camp, and I didn't want to. So I kind of told my recruiter to give me the next best thing, the closest thing to that. But there's in the Marine Corps alone, I think there's 150 to 200 jobs. I mean, you can be anything from a machine gunner to an administrative clerk. I mean, you could be doing paperwork all day. So
Is there a small percentage of the people that want to go into like combat? Like,
a small percentage do. I mean, a lot. I mean, if I broke it down into basic numbers, about just just from our branch alone, just because of I know the numbers and how big it is. Because I know approximately 10 to 15% of the jobs are combat related. All the others are support jobs in one aspect or another, whether you're motor T, you work on the trucks, supply, logistics, or if you go to college and you get your degree, become an officer, a lot of guys like to become pilots. So it all depends, but there are a lot of people, surprisingly enough, that do pick that, yeah.
Do you usually get the job that you want going in, or do they assign you?
You usually get it all depends on what you, it all depends really on how long you want to wait. Like I could have waited, I'm glad that I didn't, but it all depends really. Some people, what you can do is you can sign what's called an open contract. So you sign an open contract, you could get any job in the Marine Corps. I mean, you could be a cook, you just don't know. So, and the Marine Corps does have cooks. So yeah, it all depends. But really, you're usually able to get the job that you want. Yeah.
How do you feel you changed from when you signed up to when you came back?
Well, I think I'm able to handle stress a lot better. Things that I thought were a big deal before, not a big deal now. When I got back, I do. I have a little bit more anxiety though. Like when I sit in a room, I don't like to sit with anybody behind me that I don't know. So like if I go to a restaurant, I kind of like to sit at the back with nobody to my back. So I guess those, besides the anxiety and those little symptoms, I guess I'd say that those are really, I guess, the only negatives because even though it wasn't something I wanted to do for 20 plus years, it was still a positive experience. I mean, I did learn a lot. I learned how to deal with a lot of things because you're put into a lot of positions and you're forced to do a lot of things that you at the time don't want to do, but you have no choice unless you want to be that guy and you don't care about your reputation, you know. So, but all in all, I'd say I can handle things a lot better, and I'm a lot more grateful for what we get, you know, not just in this country, but you know, all around every day. So I'd say that's probably the biggest difference.
Would you ever go back?
To where?
Back to, like, would you ever
No.
like, would you ever go back into the Marines?
Not now. I got a wife and 2 kids, man. So not now. Maybe if I had a safer job, but no, because I would have to go. I would have to go somewhere besides here. So I've lived here all my life except for when I was enlisted.
What are your plans now that you've left the service? What career path are you on now, or?
I'm trying to take the law enforcement route. So I'm trying to. So I'm testing with a bunch of different police departments around the area, and then I'm finishing up my degree, which is justice studies, and I'm minoring in criminology. So that's the plan for right now. Yeah.
Did you eat a lot of like Middle Eastern food?
Actually no. We had to try it for when we went to on different training ops, because if you're over there and you say no, you just don't do it. It's because they take that extremely offensively. So it's something that you just don't do. But no, I didn't have to eat really any because I never sat down with They're called shiras. So I never had to sit down and conduct one of those meetings or eat any of their food. So I'm kind of thankful because the stuff that I've had is not that good. But yeah.
A quick question about the language and communication. How'd that go?
We had a 6-week language course before we left. Different provinces in that country speak different languages. So they have Dari, Farsi, and Pashto. They don't really speak Arabic there. It depends on the area you're at, though. I was supposed to go to one area. I took 6 weeks of Dari, but I ended up going to an area that spoke Pashto. So it didn't really. I mean, and by the time we got there, we took it 4 months before we left. I don't know why they did that because most of us forgot it anyway. And we had translators with us, so. But yeah, we did have to take a course, and that was brutal.
Well, what are ops?
Ops,
Yes.
like operations, like what we did.
Are you just asking to
Oh.
clarify the term? Or do you
So
wanna know more
ops is
specific?
like a short term for operation.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
All right.
What was the attitude towards the locals?
I mean, as long as they were, I mean, we knew that some of us, or some of them didn't want us there, but they were, for the most part, the ones that were not connected to the Taliban were pretty friendly. Where I was at, the white flag wasn't, like in war, you see a white flag means surrender. For them, it's kind of like that's the Taliban flag. So when we would be on patrol and we would see some HUD or something with a white flag, we kind of stayed away from it because either they were part of the Taliban or they supported them. So we didn't really associate with them. But the ones we did, I mean, they were friendly. Now, how much they told us was true, I don't know, but they weren't mean by any means, except for, I will say a quick story. One time I was overseeing a patrol. I was up and watching this patrol happen. They were at this compound for 2 hours and they were trying to talk to somebody, one of the Afghans, and at the end, over there's a lot of donkeys, goats, camels. At the end, one of the donkeys got too close to one of the Georgians, so he just drop kicked him. And so that was